Hello again, Yaksamash, and welcome back to Wrench Reads, Trilogy of Morgalla, Diary of a Lonely Demon number 12. If this is the first Wrench Reads that you've watched, click the on-screen annotation appearing right now, and go back to the introduction, start there. And as always, the self-published piece of work that I'm going to be reading is linked in the description box to the Amazon site where you can give it a purchase if you do so desire. So it's been a good week here. Long-ish week for me, but don't really have much in the way of an introduction to really tell you, or to really go through today, except that there has been interest, at least somewhat, in a Skype chat, a Skype call, a live reading by yours truly and perhaps some other folks. And that's going to be through the Morgalla Sucks Facebook page. That link is in the description bar below. So if you haven't actually seen this yet, or if it's something that you haven't actually posted in, if you're interested in it, go there and put down your not your contact information, the time that you would be willing or able to come to one of these readings or listen to one of these readings. And we'll go from there. I think they'd like to try to have it within the next 2 weeks, kind of just to have it, and just move on from there. But other than that, I hope you folks are interested. And again, if you are, go to the Morgalla Sucks Facebook page, linked below, and have a look. Other than that, I might as well get started. So, as always, I've got my copy if you guys want to read along. This is starting on, no real page in this, page number. This is starting at percent 14, the middle of chapter 4, the Night at Shenanigans thing. And right after I finished last week, where Jasper is talking about, or no, I'm sorry, Andy is talking about Missy, and the little bit of history that Missy and Jasper and Andy really kind of have together. But again, thanks for coming by. If you like what I do, rate, comment, subscribe, and feel free to comment. It takes 5 seconds of your time, and I love seeing comments on these. I usually reply to them. But yeah, anyway, thanks again. Now, as I said, I started in the middle of a section. I'll read the sentence directly preceding where I'm starting, and then I'll go on from there. So, right. She's had it in for him since the 9th grade, Andy said. We always had a joke that she was really one of Satan's illegitimate kids. Doesn't matter, Jasper added. Maybe you should go buy a girl a drink, Megan suggested. You want me to find a new girlfriend in a bar? Jasper could not believe what Megan was suggesting. What's wrong with that? Andy asked. Let me count the ways. Not a new girlfriend, Andy continued. Just ask a girl to have a drink with us. Jasper didn't say anything at first, but he gave a brief look around the area. They all have boyfriends, Jasper said. He noticed that, besides the guy who sneered at him earlier, there were a bunch of couples around the tables and at the bar. The gesture is italics. You'll see that quite a bit in this section. That one doesn't. Megan pointed to a woman on the other side of the room. Jasper looked over his shoulder to see a small form dancing in front of the jukebox. She was quite short, with long red hair that flowed down her back. She certainly had 2 left feet. Jasper raised an eyebrow. He looked back at his friends. Deep down, he knew they were right. He never had any confidence or courage, especially when it came to women. You're serious? Jasper again could not believe what his friends were suggesting. Well, I have been drinking, so my judgment is a tad impaired, Andy replied. Well, I don't know, Jasper sighed, hearing the advice from his friends. So why her? Why not? Megan replied, with a shrug. I thought you were using women's intuition. Just go already, will you? Megan was insistent. Jasper sighed again. He finished the liquid confidence. He finished the liquid confidence, what little was left. Never before had he approached a stranger in a bar. He walked toward this woman. To say that she looked like a tomboy would be an understatement, judging only her appearance from behind. She wore a dark violet coat that fell to her ankles. Her hair was thick, straight, and long, and the color of raspberries, but darker. Jasper swallowed hard and took a deep breath. This is in italics. Oh, what the hell? On italics. Hi, he said, to which she spun around if she were a child caught in the cookie jar. Her hand went to her pocket as if she were ready to draw a weapon. Jasper took a step back. If he didn't, he felt that he might have been seen as creepy. Who are you? She demanded of this stranger before her. I'm Jasper. She faced him now, and he could see her attractive features. She was much shorter than him. Her head came to his shoulders. Her clothes hid the physique of a professional athlete. Her apparel was conservative, humble, and informal. With her coat open, Jasper could see that she wore a red baby t-shirt with no markings. She also wore jeans that hugged her hips and upper legs, but were loose at the ankles. Used red and white sneakers decorated her feet. He looked into her eyes that were emerald and her lovely face. Her complexion was flawless, and she wore no makeup. She looked young, but when she spoke, it was clear that she was older. She gave Jasper the once-over from head to toe. She acted as if she were surprised by his appearance before her. "Where did you come from?" she asked. "Over there," he replied, jerking his thumb over his shoulder. "Oh, great, he sent you to spy on me, didn't he?" "Who?" "And who are you?" she asked in a tone that was almost accusing him of something. "I'm Jasper." "Jasper, huh?" Her hand was on her hip now in a cocky stance. She took one long sip of her frozen drink and then stopped. One eye shut and her face contorted, with her lips tightening. Her palm went to her temple and her head trembled slightly. "Are you okay?" Jasper asked, concerned that something was wrong. "Brain freeze," she moaned, and then her face returned to a more normal state. "Ow, don't you just hate it when that happens?" He looked at the table next to the jukebox and noticed a glass that was almost... Hold on. He looked at the table next to the jukebox and noticed a glass that was almost empty. The cocktail waitress just happened to be walking by. "Say, you want another? What were you drinking?" "You are going to buy me a drink?" she said with surprise. "Yeah, why not?" "Virgin daiquiri," she shrugged. With her drink order put in, Jasper stood with his hands in his pockets. He found her choice of 70s music on the jukebox to be unique. "And here I thought the whole point of your mission was to remain hidden and not let me see you." "Mission? Excuse me?" Jasper exclaimed with confusion. "Playing innocent, are we?" She smirked at him now. "You don't look familiar, so you must not work for my father. Maybe you serve my aunt, and she loaned you out to do a favor for him?" Jasper's hands were still in his pockets, and he was nodding with a fake smile. The cocktail waitress came back with the daiquiri, and Jasper reached for his wallet. The woman held the drink and sniffed it, not sure what to think. She finally took a sip of it, but not until after she gave him a suspicious glance. "Keep the change," he said to the waitress, and made sure to leave an extra-large tip. Italics. "Damn, she didn't notice." On italics. "Yummy," she said with a small smile. "So, my friends were playing pool." She looked around to him to see two people there. She looked around him to see two people there. Andy raised his beer bottle in a salute, and Megan gave a small wave. There was something about them that she found unusual and unexpected. She could feel their souls quite easily, especially the male, since he had been drinking. "They're not with you," she said confidently. "What, did you pay two humans to pretend to be with you?" "Okay, you have a great night now." Jasper turned and was about to walk away. He had gone 2 steps when she walked around and put her index finger on his chest. She had a point to make, and she wanted to make it clearly. "Look," she said, "you're pretty good at hiding your soul from me. I'll give you that. I mean, I can't sense anything from you." "Uh-huh," Jasper was smiling and nodding along with her, convinced she must be mental. Italics. That daiquiri wasn't virgin. Unitalics. But I don't need a bodyguard, and I'll be home in an hour or so. So you don't need to worry about me. You or your ugly friend at the bar. Walking over here was a big mistake, and I just want to go back to my friends, okay? He said, pointing to Andy and Megan. She looked over at the couple he pointed to. She could feel a myriad of emotions, especially from the one that had been drinking. Their souls were like those of most human beings, unguarded and open to her. Italics. Oh my God, they're human. Which means, all caps, this guy, on all caps, or no, the guy is not capitalized. You're human? She said, looking back at him. Well, duh. Oh my God, you're human. Her hand went to her mouth at the realization, and she was at a loss for words. At the realization, and she was at a loss for words. Are you okay? Seriously, Jasper said with concern. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to. Through her mind raced 101 thoughts. She blushed, and her hand went to her forehead. Italics. Just how could a human sneak up on me like that? How could he hide his soul? Is he a wizard? Nah, wizards don't live on Earth. On italics. Her question could go unanswered for the time being. Someone came up to interrupt them. It was a human male, a suitor much bigger than this person before her. He had long, flowing hair and wore a t-shirt and jeans stretched over a massive and powerful physique. Shoot. My phone decided to say no, but I'm close to the end of this section. But I think it's been a long reading. I think I'll have to end it here because the whole next section is about how would I kick your... Yeah, there's way too much left in this section. So I'm going to stop it right where this guy... hey there, he smiled at the redhead before him, a beer in one hand and a pool cue in the other. This guy bugging you? And that's it. I'll start with that kind of sentence next week. Because it starts off the next kind of section. So that was it. That was the reading for this week. I'm sorry the transition was kind of knackered because of my phone. But yeah, so we've got... you saw me kind of cringing every now and again because John can't write dialogue between two people that actually works. I will say that if John was going for just awkward and essentially bad conversation between two people that actually kind of fit the setting with, the awkward Jasper and the awkward... This is Morgalla, obviously. Of course, we don't know her name because this is from Jasper's point of view. Kinda. The awkwardness kind of worked here. But again, as I said a couple readings ago, the awkwardness is there no matter what John's doing. So, okay, let's head back and start doing my standard once-over. First thing kind of drags back into the previous reading. It drags back into the previous reading specifically because of something that was said kind of as in the context of the section, and it was immediately just kind of ignored in the rest of it. Let's see. Talking about the dumping incident, walk like a troglodyte, smoke-filled area, blah, 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 blah. They got situated with a table and ordered a first round from the waitress. It would be the only round since it was a weeknight. Yet, throughout this entire section, and even in the last section that I actually read, Andy got buzzed, if not even worse than that. So this supposed one round either didn't happen, or John just didn't keep the consistency to a point where he would actually keep that as part of the story. So the one round for a weeknight, it's kind of pointless. For instance, and because this actually came up in the last section, Andy's statement here is just out of place. Well, I have been drinking, so my judgment is a tad impaired, Andy replied. And in the last section, Andy was yelling across the table because of the alcohol. So, yeah. Again, no consistency. There's kind of an implication here in the first section. They all have boyfriends, Jasper said. He noticed that besides the guy who sneered at him earlier, there was a bunch of couples around the tables and at the bar. I wonder if John has actually been to a bar. Because, especially on a weeknight, date nights usually happen Fridays and weekends. If these people are coming out with only couples, it doesn't make sense to me. And plus, I can't understand why he would italicize couples, except the fact that both John and Jasper have kind of been lousy with love. Neither of them have ever really been able to keep a girlfriend. At least Jasper, for the time being, hasn't been able to keep a girlfriend. So when I read it, it tasted like it was done in spite. So, sorry. There's a couple of repeated content items in this section, again, much like the stuff with Morgalla. Morgalla is described a couple times. She's described as the long red hair flowing down her back. Let's see. Jasper looked over his shoulder to see a small form dancing in front of the jukebox. She was quite short with long red hair that flowed down her back. And then, a couple paragraphs over, to say she would... Well, that's something else that I'll get to in a second. Her hair was thick, straight, and long with the color of raspberries. And then, I think, where did it mention her physique? Oh, but it also mentions her physique coming up to Jasper's shoulders, being very short. So, again, John's writing, everybody. Repetition and and very poor detail. I mean, because red and the color of raspberries are similar, but it would have been simpler if John had just, described her once, just once, rather than multiple times. He finished the liquid confidence, what little was left. Never before had he approached a stranger at a bar. This is really unfortunately worded, because this shows kind of how crappy Jasper is at making, friends in a normal context. Alcohol has that wonderful characteristic of, other than being a downer, like you drown your sorrows in alcohol, it's because it tends to bring you down, even though it kind of kills the feeling of worrying about your problems, but it's a downer, it brings you down. However, it does tend to loosen the tongue. If you drink quite a bit, you will tend to talk with people in the bar, and that's kind of the approaching people in the bar. But Jasper here, this should say, never before had he approached a woman at a bar and offered her a drink, or something like that, because it makes Jasper sound like a complete and utter douche nozzle, which no big surprise, right? With this particular thing. I could be reading too much into it. In fact, I'm fairly certain I'm reading too much into it. But knowing John's style, knowing his writing, it's totally worth it. Let's see. I could make a comment about Jasper judging her appearance from behind and claiming to be a nice guy at the same time. She wore a dark violet coat that fell to her ankles. I could draw a direct comparison between the trench coat wearing, fedora hat wearing type MRA douchebags and Morgalla, because John himself is himself a MRA kind of douche nozzle. And then, but here the biggest thing that I want to talk about this section is the blending of not necessarily tenses, but position that the story is being written from, and I'll get to that in a second. I hope I don't forget it. We have a contradiction here. She looked young, but when she spoke, it was clear that she was older. And this is after she said one passage. She said one thing. Who are you? And Jasper is able to say, she looked young, but when she spoke, it was clear that she was older. And plus, this is in a bar. So, and they're serving alcohol. So how the hell could she get in if there was any kind of doorman at the door checking IDs? How could she get in if she wasn't 21? Oh, here it is. Her clothes hid. She faced him now, and he could see her attractive features. She was much shorter than him. Her head came up to his shoulders. Again, just a repetition. Her apparel was conservative, humble, and informal. I highly disagree, specifically because this is like what I consider conservative would be very simple clothes, probably a long sleeve white blouse, a longer than knee kind of dress. John's description of conservative, humble, and informal I could agree with. Conservative and humble, not so much. Tight, like hugging, or jeans that hugged her waist her waist and upper legs, and a baby T-shirt, which in my experience with these particular type of T-shirts, I mean, I could be wrong. If I'm wrong, please somebody correct me on this, because I don't really want to get this wrong. A red baby T-shirt with no markings. That implies to me that it's a tight-fitting, very small T-shirt, which would show off essentially her attractive professional athlete physique. That doesn't strike me as humble. Doesn't strike me as conservative. But then again, we're talking about John, who is the epitome of conservative ideas, or epitome of conservative ideas. So, her hand went to her pocket as if she were ready to draw a weapon. Jasper took a step back. Jasper took a step back. Semicolon. If he didn't, comma, he felt that he might have been seen as creepy. As the creepy is in italics there. This is part of actually what I'm going to talk about later. Clear that she was older. She starts talking to Jasper about, like, oh great, he sent you to spy on me, didn't he? We have to assume that the he is not the hulking troglodyte of a man over at the bar. We can probably assume that this is Zorach keeping an eye on his daughter. However, when Morgalla starts to do her quote-unquote work for hell, this kind of shows up as a plot hole to me. Where Morgalla tries to do her work, which is essentially as a scout for the demon hordes, it would make sense for a scout to have essentially a handler or something like that. And it makes essentially the deception that Morgalla tries to establish here later in the book kind of meaningless, because these beings essentially know where she is. They can keep an eye on her, know what she's doing, and it makes the entire kind of setup to the climax kind of not only predictable but unrealistic in terms of this book. So something that I noticed before, or that I marked down here before I actually got in contact with John about a few of the different, like the alien thing with the demons. Brain freeze, she moaned, and then her face returned, and then her face returned to a more normal state. Ow, don't you just hate it when that happens? How would she know what that's called? Unless on other human planets they use the exact same lingo, they use the exact same phrases, they use everything exactly the same. This is more of the same, just recycled Western world kind of speak that bleeds through everything in hell. Essentially, hell is just another nation in the Western world with the way it handles itself. There's no slang, no lingo, no nothing. She uses everything that you'd find in, standard modern day United States. It's stupid. He found her choice of 70s music on the jukebox to be unique. No explanation as to why he thinks they're unique, or that it is unique. I myself am a fan of music from the 40s to, today. That's not unique. Say, if she was playing a one-hit wonder, or something very specific, or something very unusual for someone of her age, 70s music isn't... when this book was written in 2000s to maybe very early 2010s, 70s music was still incredibly popular even among my generation. This is silly. It's there's no reason to call it unique. Keep the change. This is later on in the section. The rest is between there and here is kind of just mediocre. Keep the change, he said to the waitress, and made sure to leave an extra large tip. Damn, she didn't notice. Hello to the douchebag that is John David. You don't leave a tip because you expect to be thanked. You don't leave a tip expecting someone to say, hey, thanks for the tip. Want me to undress? It's like last week, where these characters where Jasper is doing these things expecting to get a reward. He's doing it expecting to get something in return from these people. And it shows that he's not... the way he's treating, or the way he's carrying himself is just not... He's not a nice person. He's not a nice person. He's a nice guy. Right. So, let's see. Anything else before... start to get a little bit of explanation as to what Morgalla's powers can do. She can read the feelings, the quote-unquote souls, or the feelings of these people, especially from the ones who have been drinking. This comes back in the next book. She realized that Jasper's human. There's an italicized section. Just how could a human sneak up on me like that? How could he hide his soul? Is he a wizard? Nah, wizards don't live on Earth, despite the fact that in not only this book, but in the next book, we find out that wizards do actually live on Earth. And it shows the intel that the demons are using is absolute crap. And go figure, an invading army has crap intel. And then, again, the primary antagonist of this entire section, the big, burly, muscular guy with the long hair who essentially says, hey, is this little jerk, is this little douchebag Jasper bothering you? It's predictable. It's absolutely predictable. So, let's see. What did I want to talk about specifically? Yes. Her hand went to her pocket as if she were ready to draw a weapon. Jasper took a step back. If he didn't, he felt that he might have been seen as creepy. This entire book is more or less written from the point of view of one character or another. This section, this chapter 4, is obviously written from the point of view of Jasper. Whereas chapters 1, 2, and 3, or 1 and 2, were written from the point of view of Morgalla. John is not consistently doing it, he's not consistently writing point by point as point of view for these different characters. In this section, in this chapter, we have your point of view dropping back and forth from Jasper to Morgalla. Her hand went to her pocket as if she were ready to draw a weapon. How would Jasper know this? Is he used to a girl going for a weapon? Or was that Morgalla's kind of instinct kind of showing through? Again, this is Jasper not really knowing how to write this shit. She gave Jasper once. Plus it's not even that as limited to that, because you're actually able to hear and read the thoughts of Morgalla as she's going through these different things. She gave the Jasper the once over. She acted as if she were surprised by his appearance before her. Crap! I'm out of time. But suffice it to say, and if you want to, if you the viewers want to put up a section that I've read, as specifically a timestamp, in the comment section below, feel free. But yeah, you're jumping back and forth between two different characters and their perspectives, and it's causing a very jaunted feel that just makes this book, this self-published piece of trash, even worse. So, I hope you guys enjoyed. Thanks again. I'm done. Take care. I'll talk to you next week. Na zdvorano. Na zdrovie. Peace.